What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out some brand new Trickstar cards that just got revealed in Savage Strike. We knew that we were going to be getting more Trickstar support. If you watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, the anime, Aoi had a duel versus Soul Burner, and as I've said before, the 4 core booster sets we get every year follow the storyline of the anime. So once they appeared in the anime, we knew eventually we were going to be getting them in the physical card game. I do think it's a little weird that these cards weren't in Soul Fusion because Trickstars are getting a new fusion monster. That must have been when everybody was going, fusion crazy and Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains and all of these archetypes. Basically, Soul Fusion. Seems like they should have put the fusion card in Soul Fusion, not necessarily in Savage Strike, because it's kind of like a synchro set. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Aoi did get a synchro monster. In fact, I think she'll probably get all the mechanics. Maybe not a ritual Trickstar. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. But the other ones I could definitely see. But let's go ahead and start off with the fusion monster. This is Trickstar Band Sweet Guitar. It's a level 7 light fairy monster, fusion of course, 2200 attack, 1200 defense. The materials I'm not really in love with, but they are what they are. It's a Trickstar Link monster plus 1 Trickstar monster. The Trickstar monster obviously is, who cares about that, but the Trickstar Link monster part, that one is a little bit of a problem. Now Trickstars do have a Link 1, I believe it's Trickstar Bloom, and that can make obviously getting a Link monster on board a lot easier. You don't have to invest that many resources into it, but I'm just not thrilled about going into a fusion that has to have a Link monster as a material. Now the first effect says, double any effect damage a Trickstar Link monster you control linked to this card inflicts to your opponent. That's another thing I don't like about this card. Not only does it require you to Link summon or use a Link monster as a material, but then its first effect only doubles the effect damage of another Link monster that you have on the field. And it's like, come on, Konami, how many times do you expect me to actually Link summon with Trickstars? A lot of Trickstar players go into Holly Angel once every blue moon. I don't know, I kind of wish that it just doubled the effect damage of all Trickstar monsters you control. That would be amazing, especially for something like Lycoris, but whatever. Effect number 2, each time a Trickstar monster inflicts effect damage to your opponent, this card gains attack equal to that amount of damage. That seems fair enough. If you can get this on board hypothetically with maybe a Lycoris, or even better with 2 copies of Lycoris, I could actually see that being quite relevant. Usually Lycoris is the card that I think of the most when I think of Trickstar monsters doing a lot of effect damage. So maybe you get this on board with a Lycoris sometimes, especially if you combine it with Reincarnation, can do a lot of effect damage. I think it's a somewhat useful effect. I can never see it being OP or anything like that, but I think if you combine it with Lycoris, it could have some seldom uses. The third effect is what I believe is by far the best effect of this card. It says once per turn during the end phase of a turn this card attacks, so only during your turn, the attack increased by this card's second effect returns to 0. Then you can add 1 Trickstar monster from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a recovery effect, and I think that this is the most practical because essentially once you summon your copy of Sweet Guitar, all you have to do is just make sure that she attacks during that turn, and you're going to be able to get a Trickstar monster back from your graveyard to your hand. As far as I know, it doesn't say, if you do, then you can add. So I believe that you don't even have to do any type of attack gaining here. Whether or not your monster actually gained attack value from the second effect is irrelevant. You can still actually activate that third effect and get your returning or your warrior returning alive effect. And at the bare minimum, even if your graveyard is just jank, you can get the fusion material that you use to summon her, that non-Link Trickstar monster, just add it back to your hand. I think that that's actually pretty good. Next up, we have the Link monster. This is Trickstar Diviritis. It's a Link to Light Fairy, of course, because it's a Trickstar monster. 1800 attack. It points to the bottom left and then straight down bottom. The materials are 2 level 3 or lower Trickstar monsters. So most of the monsters that people run right now outside of Carabine and the OCG or something like Candina, that seems simple enough. Effect number 1 is you can only control 1 Trickstar Diviritis. Okay. Effect number 2, if this card is special summoned, inflict 200 damage to your opponent. Alright, I guess that seems really, really low in my opinion. Even if you have something like, I don't know, Light Stage, that's only 400 damage. Usually, even something like a Candino on field will get way more damage than that. Effect number 3, each time your opponent normal/special summons a monster, inflict 200 damage to your opponent. I understand what Konami is going for here with this third effect, but I just don't think that it's going going to work. I think Konami is thinking, hey man, if you get this on board and your opponent starts link spamming, they're going to eat up a ton of life points. The problem with this type of card, and I guess you could compare it to something like Trickstar Lycoris, which is by far, in my opinion, the most successful burn card in Trickstars, is if your opponent does a whole bunch of searching, there's actually no real guarantee that they're actually going to be in a position to kill you. If you look at a deck like Sky Strikers, if you have Lilybell, or excuse me, Lycoris on field, your opponent might open up with Terraforming, that's, 200 burn damage, and then they might Rhoda for Ray, then they activate a copy of Engage, and it's like you've just done 600 burn damage, but they're not really any closer to actually like gaming you or anything like that. They still have moderately low damage at that point. But summoning is different, especially special summoning. The more special summoning your opponent is doing, chances are the bigger the field that they're actually trying to create. So when you look at this card, if your opponent starts special summoning 10, 20 times to where you're actually doing a significant amount of damage with this card, chances are that they almost certainly have enough damage on board to just kill this thing and then instantly kill you in the process. Like, you're not going to see another turn. A card like Lycoris, not only again are they not necessarily going to be in that position because they're searching a bunch of cards, but Lycoris also has the benefit of Trickstar Reincarnation, one of the best cards in the archetype, where that card just naturally amplifies the damage of Lycoris. This card doesn't have any way of amplifying the damage, and I think that the more damage you do with this card, the more of a risk that you're in of basically losing the duel. I mean, think about if your opponent special summoned 20 times. Okay, well, I'm probably failing at math, but that would be what, like 4,000 damage that your opponent's done to themselves. Okay, then they attack over this and they just kill you, because with 20 special summons, literally every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to have enough damage on board to actually kill you at that point. So I really don't like the design of this card at all. Next up, we have a brand new Trickstar field spell that has just been revealed, and it's really interesting because Trickstars now have 3 field spells in the archetype. You have Trickstar Light Stage, which is just the bee's knees. I don't think Konami is ever going to top that one. In fact, I don't think that they're aiming to top Light Stage because they know that that's the best field spell. We have Light Arena, which was a card that I was not too enthusiastic about. I don't really like Light Arena that much. And then we have this new Trickstar Live Stage, and I have to say, this is a card I actually do like a lot. I think that it has a lot of practical applications. So Trickstar Live Stage is a field spell. The second and the third effects are both hard once per turn, and it says you cannot special summon monsters during the turn that you activate this card's second or third effect except Trickstar monsters. So you activate those effects, you're only locked into Trickstar monsters when it comes to special summoning. First effect says when this card is activated, you can add 1 Trickstar monster from your graveyard to your hand. This is really good in my opinion, and this is not a hard once per turn. So if you have multiple copies, you can recover multiple Trickstar monsters from your graveyard. I think that this becomes significantly better whenever we get Trickstar Caribbean to the TCG. That is an excellent card to get back from your graveyard. I mean, usually you might, and you know what, actually, if you get something like Lilybell back from your graveyard, you can instantly special summon in. Lilybell is such a good card. I think that that first effect is just absolutely fantastic, and I think that it's just as good, well, maybe not quite as good as Light Stage's Search, but it's definitely comparable. Second effect says if you control a Trickstar Link monster, you can special summon 1 Trickstar token. That token is a Fairy Light level 1, 0 attack and 0 defense. All right, again, that doesn't seem all that difficult, especially if you do happen to go on the Trickstar Bloom. That means that you can instantly get a token. Trickstar Bloom only costs you 1 monster to summon, but I think that that's pretty easy to activate. Then the third effect says if your opponent controls a card in their spell and trap zones, you can special summon 1 Trickstar token. I'm going to assume that that Trickstar token is going to be the same as what they said in the second effect, which is level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. This is good because I think that you could potentially easily get 2 tokens in the same turn and be able to recover a Trickstar card from your graveyard. I think that that's very good, and even though it doesn't lock down your opponent's back row like Trickstar Late Stage does, it's the same kind of theory. You're basically punishing your opponent for having a card in their spell and trap zone, or for having some type of spell and trap on the field. And actually, this works maybe just as well, because even though it doesn't take away your opponent's card, you can actually punish your opponent for having a field spell on the field, and we all know how popular field spells are. Then finally, we have Trickstar Fusion, because at this point, why the hell not? Everybody else is getting fusion spells. Thunder Dragon's getting Thunder Dragon Fusion and Soul Fusion. You got Cynet Fusion and Soul Fusion. You have Neo's Fusion in this very set, Savage Strike. So, why not go and give Trickstars a fusion spell as well? It's a normal spell card. The first effect says Fusion Summon one Trickstar Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control or have in your hand as fusion materials. Okay, so basically polymerization. Not really sure that there's much to say about the first effect. Effect number 2, really like the bonus effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Trickstar monster in your graveyard. That's the cost. Add that card to your hand. Also, after that, you cannot normal/special summon that monster or a monster with the name, or excuse me, a monster with that name for the rest of this turn. All right, I think again, having a nice little recovery effect is quite good. It seems like the theme here with these new cards, because 3 of them have this kind of Warrior Returning Alive effect, is more or less just being able to recover your resources, not necessarily search new resources. Because if you look at Code of the Duelist, you had Candina that had a search, and Light Stage had a search. Now it looks like Konami wants you to kind of recover the resources from your graveyard. I think that this is very similar to some of the other cards where this is really good with Trickstar Caribbean. Trickstar Caribbean is a card that you can use from your hand. It's a hand trap. You don't have to actually summon it for it to be able to do damage or for it to help you get over one of your opponent's monsters. So I think that's good. You could also add something like Trickstar Lycoris to your hand. Then you could special summon it during your opponent's turn. You could still get all that burn damage from them trying to search. Overall, I kind of want them... If you're not going to run Trickstar fusion monsters, I kind of think that there needs to be some way of using this card, getting it to the graveyard, because I think that recovery effect is quite nice. But I guess in that case, why not just use the field spell? And it's just honestly better in that case. But overall, I think that it's pretty decent as a fusion spell. I wish maybe it lets you banish from the graveyard. That would have been incredibly impressive. But overall, I think that this support it's okay. I think that Live Stage is actually the card that could probably cross over into competitive. I think you could definitely use that card right now, but not before we get Trickstar Caribbean. Once we get Trickstar Caribbean in the TCG, yeah, I think it'll have way more applications. But whatever you guys think of the new Trickstar support, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos and check out these other videos I know you'll enjoy.